A very good morning and welcome all of you to the daily news analysis for 19th of April 2025 with me Jatin Verma. In today's news analysis, guys, we are going to talk about Collector Bro, a famous IAS officer from Kerala who is in the storm of controversies at this point in time. He became famous with the by being the being the DM of Kozhikode district. Later on, now he has leveled some serious charges, allegations of corruption against the additional chief secretary of the state of Kerala. Now he has been suspended. What is the controversy? How does it correlate to the civil services rules and whistleblowers, the need for the Whistleblowers Act in India? Why do we need to protect the whistleblowers if in case they are highlighting the phenomena of corruption in the system? This is what this news article can be correlated with, and how he became Collector Bro by having around 3 lakh followers on the Facebook page. The new avatar of civil servants who are popular, who are using social media reels, etc. to their advantage. Now coming to this part, India plans to ease nuclear liability laws to attract foreign firms. We signed the civil nuclear deal in 2008 with the United States of America. But would you be surprised to know that as yet we do not have even a single nuclear reactor that we have purchased from United States of America? Why? Because of India's civil nuclear liability law that puts the unlimited liability on the suppliers of nuclear reactors. This is what we are going to talk about. Then the new UPI, clarification has come from the government side that there will be no GST on the UPI transactions above 2000 rupees. In the light of this news article, we are going to see the previous year questions. We are going to talk about the merchant discount rate that many of you already must be knowing because of our discussion in the previous days. Daily news analysis, we had covered this topic earlier also. Now India plans to ease, then Collector Bro, then opposition parties criticize Vice President Dhankar's remarks against judiciary. Article 142, another angle to it in today's news analysis. So as these news articles are panning themselves out, these stories are developing, I try to add one new element or the other new element related to the news articles so that we are covering the news articles in a 360-degree manner. Now the first one, Mehul Choksi. We have been reading about this news article in a sensational manner. But from the UPSC's perspective, we'll do a sober analysis as to when did we sign the treaty with Belgium. 1901, and what are the salient clauses of extradition treaty which might help the Indian authorities, Enforcement Directorate, CBI to bring back Mehul Choksi. Unlike the others who are hiding out in the states like London, United States, the Belgium case, the Mehul Choksi case seems to be an achievable one. Why so? Let's get started with the news articles. Before we begin, today, I would say, is the last day to enroll for the All India Prelims Mock Test 3. As I always say that keep practicing. Before UPSC tests you, you should test yourself. You should get yourself evaluated by conducting these initiatives on PW Only IAS. Now you're conducting the third test for the UPSC Prelims Aspirants 2025. But even if you are going to appear in 2026, 2027, nothing goes in attempting the test. It will only help you get acquainted with the real hand experience of the UPSC examination, right? Without wasting your attempt, you can get to know your weaknesses. So right away you can enroll yourself by clicking on the link given in the description of this video as well, or in the about section of this channel, PW Only IAS English. The test is going to be held in the offline mode as well. If you happen to be staying in any of these cities, Karol Bagh, Patna, Prayagraj, Indore, Jaipur, then you can attempt the test in the offline mode. That will even be a better form of simulation exercise to get yourself acquainted with the UPSC's exam pattern, right? This is for prelims both in English as well as Hindi, online as well as offline mode. Now coming to the news articles, plans are on to ease the India's civil nuclear liability law. Okay, so what does it mean? It deals with the 2-3 terminologies. Let us head on discuss them. Operators liability. Okay, so government realized that the Union Carbide factory tragedy that had happened, operators means the actual operator of nuclear power plants in India. Okay, that is Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. Okay, then there are suppliers of the nuclear reactors. Suppliers means suppliers liability. Suppliers are the companies which manufacture and sell the nuclear reactor worth 70,000 crores or 80,000 crore rupees to to India's Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. Now we all know that government has set for itself an ambitious target to generate electricity, cleaner form of electricity through nuclear power. So suppliers are companies like Westinghouse and other companies, Arriva of France, Westinghouse of USA, which want to sell these nuclear reactors to India. Okay, the cost of a nuclear reactor would be somewhere around, okay, not to talk about in dollars, let's say rupees 70,000 crore rupees or 1 lakh crore rupees. Now, what do they do is suppliers have a liability if in case a nuclear reactor fails because of the faulty design or some defective equipment. So faulty design or defective equipment, then this liability of any nuclear accident will be on the supplier. Okay, any nuclear accident, if at all it happens, then the liability will be of two bodies. Operator might be at fault or supplier might be at fault. From our experience of the Bhopal gas tragedy, we learned that it was the supplier's fault of having supplied the faulty equipment, the faulty design of the Bhopal Union Carbide factory. Okay, so that led to the accident. That is why, while enacting the Civil Nuclear Liability Law, okay, Civil Nuclear Liability Act. So, civil nuclear liability means, that means for the civil usage of nuclear power, uranium-235, its isotopes being used for generation of electricity. Okay, if in case any action, any kind of accident happens, whose liability would it be? The act enacted by India for this purpose is called Civil Nuclear Liability CNL Act 2010. What does this act say? This act says that the liability of the operator will be rupees 1500 crore rupees maximum. Okay, maximum 1500 crore rupees. If in case the liability goes beyond this, the damage done is more than this, then whose liability is it going to be? This liability is then going to be of Government of India. Okay, but Nuclear Power Corporation of India as a corporation will bear maximum 1500 crore rupees. Then what is going to be the liability of supplier? How many rupees? It does not cap. No capping is there on the liability. Okay, no capping. No capping on the liability of the supplier. This was the reason that the suppliers from the countries like United States, Germany, and France, we did not get any interest from them. We were not able to convince them to supply the nuclear reactors to India. Okay, but we exempted United States, but we exempted the Russian reactors installed at Kudankulam in Tamil Nadu. So see the kind of partial treatment that India gave to Russia despite having got the nuclear waiver from the United States of America. I am doing the news analysis in a very, very beginner friendly way so that the people who are just starting their preparation or out of curiosity, out of their desire to be informed, they just want to listen to the news analysis so that they can understand the national and international affairs. Okay, so what is the nuclear exemption, nuclear waiver? We did not sign the two fundamental treaties, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. India did not sign these treaties. Despite that, India was given access to the uranium. India is not rich in uranium. Okay, so that is why we have our own thorium-based domestic plan, Homi Bhabha plan as we call it. So we have to import uranium. The Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, it says that the countries which have not signed the treaty, like India, they should not be given uranium-235. They should not be allowed to import uranium-235. But despite having not signed it, India said that its conduct is very good. We have never used nuclear weapons or never threatened to use nuclear weapons against any states despite repetitive wars like the one by Pakistan and then later China also. Okay, so we are a responsible nuclear power. Based upon India's conduct, the United States of America in 2008 started the Civil Nuclear Deal and gave the waiver to India that despite not having signed these treaties, India would still be able to get these the import of uranium into India will be allowed from countries like Kazakhstan, Canada, Australia, Japan. Japan itself is a victim though. Okay, so India would be allowed to import the uranium 235 and its isotopes into India despite having not signed the non-proliferation treaty. Okay, so this is what the import of it is. Now, what is the government saying is, since the trade tariff war has started, we are trying to convince the United States of America to be friendly with us, even though we cannot abolish the tariffs as is being demanded. So how are we trying to appease USA's appeasement or trying to pacify Donald Trump? How are we doing it? Equalization levy on Google, etc., has been abolished by India. Okay, equalization levy, you understand? 5% tax that was levied on Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, that has been abolished. When you print an advertisement, when you give an advertisement in the newspaper, you have to pay 5-6% tax. Okay, GST is there. But when you launch an advertisement campaign on Facebook, Google, Amazon, then you are not required to pay any tax now. Earlier there was 5% tax. This has been abolished now. This is in light of appeasement. We just want to pacify Donald Trump so that India does not become the victim of tariff war. And as a result of all this, what are we doing now? Second step that we did is 3% tax on the LNG imports from USA was also abolished. LNG imports will be done by India from the United States of America. Okay, so 3% tax that was there stands abolished now. So this has also been abolished, number one. Number two, now number three, we are telling the USA that we may not be able to give you tariffs, lower tariffs, but definitely we will give you a kind of business. What business? That the US nuclear reactor companies, which were earlier unable to sell the nuclear reactors to India, would now be able to sell them. Why? Because the supplier's liability clause, the nuclear supplier company, the seller company, its liability would be reduced now. Okay, there will be a capping on there will be an upper limit on the liability of the nuclear supplier, which will be from the United States and other Western countries like France, Germany, etc. These countries are able to make big nuclear reactors, the high wattage nuclear reactors of 1000 megawatt, etc. Okay, so this is how we are trying to reduce the impact of tariff war by USA's appeasement. Indian government's policy is not that like of China. Okay, is unlike China, we are trying to appease USA. These are the three salient points that we can extract from the discussions of our news analysis of last few weeks. Okay, so this is what is happening. Now coming to the other aspects. Okay, the Civil Liability for the Nuclear Damages Act, as it is called, the act would be amended, and Atomic Energy Act of 1962 of India would also be amended to enthuse, to attract the French nuclear reactor companies and American nuclear reactor companies. Clear? So this is there. Now, a draft law is being prepared by Department of Atomic Energy that removes a key clause in the Civil Nuclear Liability Damages Act of 2010 that exposes suppliers to unlimited liability. Now, instead of unlimited liability, there will be limited liability as per the draft law. This is to attract USA's companies. US nuclear reactor manufacturing companies will now be able to invest in India, will now be able to sell the nuclear reactors to India. Okay, what are the other aspects of this news article which are important for UPSC prelims? About Civil Nuclear Liability for Damages Act, the CLNDA Act, the short form of this act, it was passed by Parliament in 2010. It is based on the international principles of civil nuclear liability. So Vienna Convention deals with it, Paris Convention deals with it, and Brussels Supplementary Convention deals with. These are the three conventions that deal with civil nuclear liability. Okay, so this question can be there ditto in prelims because this topic has been revived now after 2010-11. So Manmohan Singh government deliberately strengthened the law so that we are not required to buy the expensive nuclear reactors. We will be at a loss Now that India has got the capacity to purchase the expensive nuclear reactors, we are making Indian law. Dekho, what did we do? We made our law, we got the civil nuclear waiver, we got the ice cream in our hand, and then later on we said that we are not going to pay for the water or content that was used in the ice cream. So we got the civil nuclear waiver that we can import the uranium 235 for fueling our nuclear reactors. But we are not going to purchase expensive nuclear reactors from the United States of America. This is the crux of this news article. Okay, so how smart was the government of India's move? Okay, USA is the country that calls the shots. That is going to determine. Okay, then that is going to determine whether India is able to import the uranium 235 or not. Later on, India gave a damp snub to the United States of America itself by not buying even a single reactor from them. Clear? Now coming here, it created a mechanism. This is what all I've explained already. 1500 crore rupees is the upper limit of the liability on operator of nuclear reactors in India, that is Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. Since nuclear power generation is a activity confined to government only, it is a reserved area, so only the government company as of now can manufacture or enter into the business of nuclear power generation. So that is why the civil nuclear operator liability of the operator of the nuclear reactor is limited to 1500 crore rupees. Clear? Now, supplier's liability, having realized that the defective parts were partly responsible for Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984, the government went beyond the provisions of this convention, that is Convention on Supplementary Compensation, the international convention that is there. It said that the liability of the supplier, the international convention says that the liability of the supplier of the nuclear reactor would be limited up to 1500 crore rupees. But government of India, learning the lessons from the Bhopal gas tragedy, that parts were defective, the supplied parts by the supplier of the Bhopal gas plant were defective. That is why the accident actually happened. So what did Government of India do? Government of India provided for the supplier's liability to an unlimited extent, no upper limit. So that was the irritant for the US companies. Now this irritant will be removed. Related UPSC questions 2017. The nuclear security summits are periodically held under the aegis of United Nations. Okay, International Atomic Energy Agency, etc. Okay, International Atomic Energy Agency, that is in news because of Iran also. Iran's nuclear inspection, etc. Then International Panel on Fissile Materials is an organ of International Atomic Energy Agency. Please answer this question. This will be question number 1 for the day today. This is Saturday, so please try to answer all the questions that are being asked in the course of discussion. Now, in India, why are some nuclear reactors kept under IAEA safeguards while others are not? A, some use uranium and others use thorium. Thorium is India-based program, though this is not the answer. Okay, India's own 3-cycle nuclear power generation program it is. Then some use imported uranium and others use domestic supplies. Some are operated by foreign enterprises and others are operated by domestic enterprises like NPCIL. Then some are state owned and others are privately owned. So what is the answer to this question number 2? This is question number 2 for today. Please answer these things. These are related to this news clipping related to easing of civil nuclear liability law by India. Clear? Very easy topic otherwise. So what is the level of enrichment that is required for nuclear power, nuclear electricity to be generated? Number 1. Number 2, what is the level of enrichment of uranium 235 that is required for conversion into a bomb, atomic bomb? Okay, so this is in context of Iran I'm asking. This is in context of India. If in case we want to use electricity, the nuclear uranium 235 for power generation for peaceful uses, what is it? Okay, what other uses are there? What are the uses of uranium in medicinal treatments, in medical treatments? So please answer. In the medical treatment, what can be the usage of uranium and its isotopes? Clear? What is the leading country? What is the country which has got the maximum reserves of uranium 235? These are the related questions. Please try to answer them. Today being Saturday, all of you, I see only 2 or 3 of them are answering all the questions. What you can do is to have a community. We can Each one of you can answer one aspect of the questions. Another student can answer the questions that have not been answered. That way, it will help all of you to read something about one topic. The questions that have already been answered, you can skip out on them. You can answer the other questions that have not been answered. Clear? Now, coming here to the other news article, all about 125-year-old extradition treaty between India and Belgium. So this treaty was signed between India and Belgium when India was ruled by Britishers. Number one. Okay, 1901 was the year. Now Mehul Choksi is sought to be extradited into India by the Indian agencies like CBI, Enforcement Directorate. Now they are using the acts like Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the offences committed by Mehul Choksi, Section 420 IPC, fraud, etc., to bring him back. Even though he is seeking a plea, he has filed a counter reply in the court of Belgium that he is suffering from cancer. So there is a danger to his life if he is extradited to India. That is why he should not be deported back to India. This is the plea that this man, Mehul Choksi, who did a fraud of around 13,000 crore rupees in 2017. This fraud came to light. They forged the documents, the SWIFT system of the banking system's way of granting loans for international thing, okay, for international purposes, for import of diamonds into India. The SWIFT is the banking mechanism which is used for transacting between the international branches. So these guys, Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi, what did they do? They fudged the system in a way, they manipulated the system, they bribed the bank employee of one of the branches of PNB in Mumbai to get the loans which they were not eligible for. And when the scam came to light, somebody enabled them to board a flight to outside India. One fled to London, another is found in Belgium now. Now India has filed a treaty, request under the extradition treaty between India and Belgium. What are the salient clauses, salient provisions of such treaties? Specifically between India and Belgium, and in general between India and other countries, we are going to study today through the mechanism of this news article. The treaty was first signed in 1901 between Britain, which was ruling India, and Belgium, and later on it was revised in 1907, 1911, not important for us, only this year is important, and later on we revised it, we accepted the treaty after we got independence. Okay, however, after India gained independence, the two countries, India and Belgium, they decided to continue the treaty through an exchange of letters. So the Belgian authorities wrote a letter to us that they want to continue, and Indian authorities also wrote a letter back that we are also inclined to continue, and hence the treaty that was signed in 1901 still remains in force till 1954. Okay, and then today it completes 125 years in 2025. It is under this treaty that India is asserting dual criminality. What are the salient provisions? The provisions of this treaty are as follows. Dual criminality is a major key factor to seek anyone's extradition between India and Belgium. It means that the crime that the person Mehul Choksi or anybody else is accused of or charged with shall be considered an offense in both the countries. That means if money laundering is considered to be an offense in India, it should be considered to be an offense in Belgium also. Then only the Belgium would entertain the request of extradition. If cheating the bank by obtaining the false loans, by obtaining the loans in a wrong manner is treated an offense in Belgium, then only the India's request of such fraud, India's request of extradition on the basis of such fraud will be entertained by Belgium. If it is not a crime in Belgium, Belgium is not bound to entertain such a request. Since the Belgium authorities have expressed that they have accepted the Indian argument, their law, Belgian law, also finds this to be a kind of offense against their system, then Mehul Choksi will be extradited to India. Okay. Now, neither country is obliged to extradite their own citizens. If Mehul Choksi would have been a Belgian, if he would have obtained the citizenship of Belgium, then Belgium would have refused that we are not going to extradite. Since Mehul Choksi has not been able to obtain the citizenship of Belgium as yet, so the chances are very high that he will be extradited to India. Okay, an extradition request can be denied if it is found to be politically motivated or for political crimes. No, Political crimes, they might not. If Mehul Choksi would have been the leader of opposition or politician, then the request would have been considered to be, the extradition request by Indian authorities might have been considered to be politically motivated. Okay. So these things are there. Now, formal request. If the country seeking extradition of an accused or a criminal does not make a formal request within 14 days of the person's arrest, then that person may be released. Second, the after making the request, the proof has to be given. The proof has to be given within 2 months. In the Belgian courts, the Indian authorities are required to provide the proof within 2 months of the arrest of the Mehul Choksi. So first limit is 14 days, then next limit is 2 months. Okay, so you should be knowing salient features for your mains examination and also for prelims to an extent. Also, an extradited person cannot be tried for any new crime after their extradition unless they get a chance to return first. Now, if Mehul Choksi is brought back to India, if he is extradited from Belgium into India, then no new charges, no new allegations should be leveled against him except the allegations that were presented before the court of Belgium. If there would be any other allegation, then that will be considered to be a violation of the treaty between India and Belgium. So please understand, the India as a country has to abide by every aspect of the treaty. Otherwise, the requests made to other countries might not be accepted, because India will then be alleged to have violated the treaty with Belgium. It will, in a way, have a blot on India's image, India's credibility as a country which respects international obligations, bilateral treaties. That is why when we bring back such fugitive economic offenders or criminals, we have to prosecute them only for the crimes that they had been alleged to have committed in the foreign land. We have the proof that we have presented in the Belgian court. Only for those proofs, only for those allegations can we prosecute these people, Mehul Choksi and other criminals, in Indian courts. No fresh allegations should be leveled against them. If any fresh allegations are leveled against them, any fresh charges are brought about, then they should be deported back to Belgium first, the country of their extradition. They should be given a chance to visit that country. That country would examine whether the fresh charges are valid or not. Otherwise, it will be a violation of the treaty. Clear? Very, very small provisions, but very important. Now, coming to the polity and governance related news articles. Okay, GS mains paper 2. This is parliamentary issues, or you can say the doctrine of separation of powers. This caters to parliament and judiciary. Okay, executive and judiciary, both the organs are involved here. Two doctrines, two news clippings. In between we have verses. Doctrine of separation of powers, doctrine of checks and balances. Okay, opposition leaders are criticizing Vice President of India, Jagdeep Dhankar sir, for his remarks against judiciary yesterday. What did he say yesterday? He said that judiciary is using Article 142 as if it's a nuclear missile against the executive. Vice President of India, who happens to be the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, he should not have commented like that, because he is, after all, the chair of the house. He should have been neutral. Being the vice president, he should not have been that vocal about the judiciary's, India's judiciary. What did judiciary do? Judiciary had put a time limit on the president to sign the bills presented to him by the governor. Bills reserved by the governor as per Article 201, they should be approved by the President of India. They should be signed by the President of India within a time limit of 1 to 3 months. This is what the judiciary has done after the repetitive instances of delay on the part of the President of India in approving the bills passed by the duly elected state legislative assembly of states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala. When these bills were not passed after repetitive reminders by the judiciary, so what was required? Judicial intervention was required. Judiciary said that the clause as soon as possible, that the governor and the president should give their signatures on the bill passed by legislative assembly as soon as possible. It means an element of expediency was expected by the constitution makers. By sitting over the bills for years, for months, like 18 months or 2 years, it is a kind of subvention or circumvention of the constitution, violation of the constitution. So on that pretext, on that basis, duly giving the logic behind judiciary's judgment, the Supreme Court of India said that there will be a time limit of maximum 3 months. In case the bill is presented to the president, president has to sign within 3 months maximum. There were reasons, it was a detailed judgment. But now Vice President of India says that how can judiciary dictate terms to the head of the nation, the President of India? It was never envisaged by the Constitution. Okay, so Supreme Court had used Article 142. 142 gives the power to the Supreme Court to do complete justice. Okay, to make the two ends of the justice meet. If there is any vacuum in the law, if there is any gap in the law, judges can fill that gap. Okay, so Article 142 gives the power to judiciary to interpret the constitution and to go beyond the stipulated norms sometimes to fill in the legal vacuum, the constitutional vacuum that is there. By applying Article 142, Supreme Court inserted a limit of 3 months, read the limit of 3 months in this clause that is worded as soon as possible. Okay, so earlier it was written vaguely worded as soon as possible, which meant like never. The governor, it is at the beck and call of the governor, whims and fancies of the governor and the president. The usage of Article 200, the veto power, was interpreted in this manner that governor had unlimited pocket veto. By inserting a limit of 3 months, the judiciary applied Article 142, and the Vice President of India said that Article 142 is like a nuclear missile fired against executive time and again. But opposition leaders came to the rescue, acted as a savior for the judiciary. They said that the judiciary should not be criticized like this in the public, because judiciary, the judges, they cannot defend themselves like politicians. And another point that they made is that when the same Article 142 was used in the favor of the government, in the favor of the executive, then Vice President of India was a silent man. He was a happy man. The same Article 142 was interpreted in favor of the Hindu community in case of Ram Janmabhoomi, where the judiciary allocated land, to a part of land to the for the Ram Mandir, and a part of land, a small part of the land, for the masjid. Then the executive was quite happy. But when the judges give judgments which are not favorable for the government, then they start criticizing Article 142. This is the threadbare explanation of this topic. Okay, so what is at stake is where to strike a fine balance between doctrine of checks and balances. Two doctrines are there, which doctrine of checks and balances says that the one organ of the government should check the other organ of the government if in case the one organ like executive is not doing its duty properly, not signing the bills in time, then judiciary should chip in, judiciary should utilize its power, okay, and do the needful. There is another doctrine which says that doctrine of separation of powers. Okay, that means one organ of the state should not interfere in the other organ of the state's functioning. Okay, but there is no strict separation of powers that is envisaged between the various organs of the Constitution of India. Okay, various organs of the state of India as we understand it through the Constitution of India. How can I say that? How am I saying that? Because there is a doctrine of judicial review. The very fact that there can be a review of the parliament's functioning, the functioning of the executive by the judiciary as given under Article 13 of the Constitution of India. So there is no strict separation of powers. Rather, Constitution talks about the doctrine of harmony between various organs of the state. The salaries of judges are determined by the parliament. Judges can be removed by the parliament. Okay, judges are appointed by the executive, even though on the recommendations of the collegium. Nonetheless, there seems to be a check on the power of every organ of the state. So that is why the judiciary was within its limits, within its rights. It was not a case of judicial overreach as is alleged to have been by the respectable, the honorable Vice President of India. It is not a case of judicial overreach. It is a case of judicial interpretation, that too after repetitive reminders to the Governor of Tamil Nadu, R.N. Ravi. Why are you not? That why is he not signing the bills? Okay, that is a subversion of democracy. If the duly elected State Legislative Assembly of Tamil Nadu, duly elected MLAs, they have got the mandate from the people to enact legislations, NEET law, various other aspects, they were enacting laws upon. If this is not allowed to happen, then this will be a dictatorship. People's mandate will not be fulfilled, right? So that is the interpretation of the judiciary. So this all is there. Now coming to the other aspects of the thing, please read it. If you did not cover the news analysis yesterday, I request you to read this once to have a comprehensive idea, fair idea of what is going on in the parliament. Why is it important? It is important because these type of topics, ditto statements, are molded in a manner that it becomes a question in the UPSC examination. We think it as vice president's hyperbole or remarks are not important, it is just another news article. No, thoroughly reading every aspect of what I just taught will help you attempt this question, at least start of the question. Okay, writing, answer writing. Do you think that the Constitution of India does not accept the principle of strict separation of powers, rather it is based on the principle of checks and balances? Explain. Year, not of any old era, okay, archives. It is 2019. Yes, the year is quite recent. See another question. Constitutionally guaranteed judicial independence is a prerequisite of democracy. Comment. 2023. Okay, so that is why understanding these debates that are going on, what is at the heart of this debate. Having read M. Lakshmikant or having joined any course, having read polity yourself, you should be able to discern as to what is the underlying topic of this news clipping. What is the topic behind it? That helps you prepare the static portion and the current affairs portion thoroughly. Okay, so these are the UPSC mains questions that have been asked on these topics. Clear, guys? Now moving further, these questions are ditto from this 2019 question is, I would say, directly from this type of a news issue that might have happened in 2019. So such news articles, they become trigger factor behind the mains questions, trigger factor for UPSC to ask a question from these topics. Now coming to no GST on UPI transactions over 2000 rupees. So a rumor was spread, a kind of fake news has been spread around that any transaction above 2000 rupees will be subject to GST. That means 18% or 12% GST would be levied on the price of the item which is above 2000 rupees if the payment is being made through GST. Government clarified, the Department of Financial Services in the Ministry of Finance, it clarified that no such GST news, no such GST proposal. The proposal to levy GST on the UPI transactions is under consideration. This news is completely false. Okay, so they explained the logic. GST is levied on the charges such as merchant discount rate. What is a merchant discount rate? When you swipe your credit card, when you make a payment through the POS machine, point of sale machine, then on credit card you are required to pay 1.2% merchant discount rate. What is the meaning of merchant here? Merchant means merchant if you are buying books, the bookshop merchant, the trader, or the bookshop, the company itself. Okay, so when you are buying some air purifier or air conditioner or TV or laptop or mobile phone, if you make the payment through credit or debit card, the payment you are making to is, the person is the merchant, the shopkeeper is the merchant, and merchant discounts the payment in this manner. Okay, if the mobile is for 10,000, you will have to pay 10,000 plus 1.2%. Since there is no payment being made through point of sale machine, you are using UPI QR code, so there is no merchant discount rate after January 2020 on payments made through UPI. Okay, so when the merchant discount rate is used 1.2%, it is subjected to, only this 1.2% is subjected to 18% or 12% GST. 12% rather. Okay, so 1.2% of this 1.2%, this GST of 12% will be levied. But there is no GST on the payments made through UPI. So there is no question of UPI arising here. Okay, person to merchant, even if you are making a payment to a merchant, a bookseller, a mobile phone shopkeeper, then also there will be no the GST. The question of GST on the payment it does not arise. The question of GST arises on the payment charges, the merchant discount rate charges only. That also stands abolished after January 2020. Clear? So this is there. Now let's have a look at the question afterwards. Since currently no MDR is charged on UPI transactions, there is consequently no GST applicable to these transactions. Factual news. Let's have a look at how the UPSC had framed a question in the past. With reference to digital payments, consider the following statements. Bhim app allows the user to transfer money to anyone with a UPI enabled bank account. While a chip PIN debit card has no 4-factor authentication, chip PIN debit card has a 4-factor authentication. Bhim app has only 2 factors of authentication. Which of the above statements is or are correct? So this is how the simple looking articles, merchant discount rate, all these small things which appear on a daily basis, you should be aware of these things. Okay. Who developed the UPI? Question number 1 from this news clipping. Who developed the Rupee card? Okay, then what is the competitor company that has been created to compete with National Payment Corporation of India? National Payments NPCI, which is the competitor company created by Government of India only to instill a sense of confidence, the competition between the two entities. One is National Payments Corporation of India. What is the name of the other entity is what I'm asking. Clear? Now coming to the other aspects. Related UPSC question, black money. You can just answer this question. It is related to, I thought of covering one new article. What is the blue smart taxi, the cab company controversy? India's homegrown startups are meeting the same fate as Byju's. Then your this blue smart has happened. Many startups are getting embroiled in controversies of fudging, scams, etc. Why is it so? The other day, our Honorable Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, had also commented on it. So can there be a question on the startup ecosystem in India? Yes. Why? See this question. When angel tax was being levied on the startups for the funding that they are getting, there were charges of black money, that they are round tripping the money from India, and then they go to Dubai, or then they go to Mauritius, and then they invest the money again in India. The rich people, the ultra high net worth individuals of India, they are replowing back their money into India by siphoning it off, by sending it to some other country where there is low tax levied on the capital gains, and then they bring back the money by making a company in Mauritius, Switzerland, and that company makes investments into India. Okay, that was the question. Now with this startup story petering out, the commerce minister said that the startups in India are happy with food delivery. Are we doing anything new? Did we invent any EV, electric vehicles, like Elon Musk or any other company? Okay, so the question here is, are the startups in India, are they generating any value? Are they creating something new? The answer is no. Okay, we are just happy supplying the products are already manufactured in the other countries. Zomato is happy selling the burgers or supplying or delivering the burgers, McDonald's pizza, the burgers and pizzas by McDonald's and these Domino's, etc. Okay, so we are not doing any value addition when it comes to the startup culture in India. That was his question. Okay, so coming to the other news article, who is the Kerala's collector bro? Okay, and Prashant says he is a whistleblower. So what is the controversy going on? Very interesting thing. We will link it with the civil services neutrality. Is there a need to revise the civil services rules in the light of advent of social media as a tool for delivery of government services? Okay, so this guy, N. Prashant, is a 2007 batch IAS officer who hogged the limelight when he became the collector of Kozhikode. Okay, so he was working under another person. This person, okay, he was his senior, he was the collector, he was the additional collector when this first person was the officer trainee, probationer. N. Prashant worked under this man. Okay, now N. Prashant has leveled the charges against Kerala's additional chief secretary. Who is the additional chief secretary? This person you see in the picture. He says that this man, when he was the collector, he gave additional benefits to his wife's company when he was the Spices Board's chairman. Now, because he has got 3 lakh followers and Prashant has got 3 lakh followers on the social media, he wanted that the chief secretary should hear him out. He should hear the grievance of the IAS officer who says that he has been falsely implicated in a controversy by the additional chief secretary of Kerala, and he is being implicated. He has now been suspended from the IAS position. When he was seeking the hearing by the chief secretary was requested by him to have a live hearing. Okay, he said that chief secretary should have live camera on, and that is how he should conduct the hearing. Now, N. Prashant, this request of live hearing was denied by the chief secretary of Kerala. He wanted to level some allegations. The allegations seemed to be bona fide against the additional chief secretary, who was earlier the collector working above N. Prashant, the collector bro in the state of Kerala. This man, when he was the chairperson of the Spices Board of Kerala, Kerala is known for spices, you know, it's a South Indian state. Okay, he made a company in his wife's name and gave contracts to that company. Later on, he appointed his daughter as the additional director of the Spices Board, flouting the norms. His daughter was not an IAS officer. These allegations have been leveled by the collector bro N. Prashant. Now he says that he has been suspended for putting the allegations, for making the controversial remarks against the additional chief secretary, against the now additional chief secretary of Kerala on social media platform Facebook. Okay, so now what is happening is the government suspended N. Prashant for using social media, for leaking out the remarks, for allegations against Jaya Tilak. His name, this man's name is Jaya Tilak. Okay, so Jaya Tilak sir, he is the additional chief secretary. Now, maligning the image of additional chief secretary of Kerala on Facebook is not acceptable to the government, because Civil Services Rules 1954, various other amendments to these rules, they say that IAS officers like N. Prashant of 2007 batch, or any other batch, or any other civil servant cannot use social media, because there is a principle of anonymity. Okay, so anything that happens in the government, people should not be told about it. Anonymity should be preserved. Okay, principle of anonymity means you should be anonymous. Since he has used social media, okay, so can he be suspended? Is it right to suspend an IAS officer when he is blowing the whistle? Whistleblowing means he highlighted the phenomena of corruption that was going on in the government, and when he made the formal request for the hearing, he said that even the court proceedings are held live these days. They are telecast on YouTube and various other TV channels. Why can't the hearing being given to him by the chief secretary, when the chief secretary is exercising quasi judicial powers of hearing the grievance of the IAS officer in the state? He should also be telecasting the proceedings live, so that people get to know what is right, what is wrong. Propriety in public. So that is what he highlighted. But when he was not allowed, he had put the entire proceedings on the Facebook page, on his Facebook page, having 3 lakh followers. So the question is, do you think that the civil services principle, the Weberian principle of Weber, was considered to be the father of bureaucracy? Okay, the theory of bureaucracy. So should the theory of bureaucracy, the principle of anonymity, should it be revised now in the light of active usage of social media platforms by IAS officers? We think of Deepak Rawat, everywhere they go, the camera follows. Okay, so those type of things. Do you think that now there is a need to revisit the civil services rules in the light of advent of social media? Okay, so this was all in today's news analysis. You see, social media has led to revelation of the crime by Yashwant Verma. As prima facie, it seems to be a crime of stashing cash, so much of cash. Had it not been for social media, had it not been for the ubiquitous camera behind every mobile phone, it wouldn't have been possible. So similarly, the civil servant should also be given the right to reach out to the people on social media. But the problem is, it clashes with their political executive. So they might nurture political ambitions, leading to the blurring of the line, the thin line between civil servants, the bureaucracy, and the politicians. This was all in today's news analysis. Have a pleasant weekend. Keep revising, and also take time out for enjoyment, for your rejuvenation, so that you bounce back again with all the energy, with even more vigor for the next week. Okay, so month of April, half the month already over, half the month is already over. Utilize the time efficiently, but at the same time, try to sneak out some time for yourself. This was all in today's news analysis. Have a good time ahead. Thank you. Bye bye. See you again on